The Oscars are this Sunday, but unfortunately for both the Academy and for ABC, which airs the Oscars, but don't worry, with the new rule that they get to choose the host, they just turned it into a 3-hour commercial for their late night show. But anyway, unfortunately for those two parties, the telecast itself has not only become super predictable, it's particularly predictable this year, but also they don't recognize what moviegoers like. There's a real discrepancy there in terms of what both groups feel are the most, important achievements of the year. This happens every year, and the Academy's trying to fix that as their viewership drops off more and more. Just like they need moviegoers to pay to see their movies, they also need them to tune in to the telecast when they celebrate them. So the Academy has been changing its votership in an effort to try and shake things up and have the two tastes align perhaps at least a little bit more, right? But you know what? Remember, they expanded the Best Picture category to 10 to try and include movies like The Dark Knight. And as you see from this year, none of your favorites were nominated out of the the blockbuster genre, right? And so they only got more of the same. So, with all their good intentions, so far they're pretty low on results over there at the Academy. I think Black Panther, by the way, will be a very interesting test next year for the Academy because they shut out a ton of important, genre films this year, with Get Out being the exception, which is fabulous. Thank goodness Get Out and Logan got on the board. But next year, I think Black Panther, when you factor in the Oscars So White controversy that was such a problem for the Academy, like 2 years running, just imagine when they combine those two, clouds of anger together if they ignore Black Panther. I'm curious to see how many people tune in this year. Speaking of tuning in, I hope you'll watch with me because you know what? Even if we don't agree with what they pick, we'll have fun talking about it. Hopefully Kimmel will do a nice job hosting. There's always a talk-worthy moment and always maybe a surprise or two, right? I mean, there certainly was a surprise last year, and I think maybe that's why they're playing it up. So, come to think of it, I bet that's why they are playing it so much in the ad campaign and all the trades right before the Oscars. You would think that the Academy and ABC would downplay that, right? Being like, we are a professional organization. We know who won. But I think that since there's no big crowd favorite competing this year, they're like, hey, we could do something stupid again. They should trot out that account and be like, we didn't fire him. We gave him all the envelopes and we're letting him tweet too. We're going to let him keep tweeting during the show. And I will be live tweeting. So I hope that you will watch with me. And again, I think at the very least we'll have fun. Now, speaking of surprises, no matter what happens on Sunday night at the Oscars, you guys delivered some surprises with your votes in the annual BTT Oscar poll. Not only with which nominees you voted for, I was genuinely surprised in some categories, but also with your write-ins. I put a write-in section for each of the categories that I asked you to vote on, and while there were a lot of genre films in there, you guys had some really inspired choices that I was like, you know what, you're right, that should have been nominated and maybe even should have won. My favorite of your write-ins was Best Original Screenplay, and on that note, if you like to skip to a particular category right now, chapter times are down below in the video description. But we're going to start with Best Picture, the biggest award of the night. That's why they put it last. But we're going to start with it. And I was really surprised that you put Call Me By Your Name first. Shape of Water and Three Billboards is expected to be the winner, by the way. Although they are thinking that Get Out, I've seen some rumblings that Get Out could have an upset because the way they ask you to vote, you don't just vote for one movie, you rank like your top 5 choices or something, or top 3 choices. So the feeling is, the prevailing opinion is that if enough people put Get Out as 2 or 3, maybe it could squeeze out a win if people are, if the votes are spread, if the number ones are spread out enough amongst the other films. And I think most voters are going to go along with you guys. I mean, you can see the bottom half of this list shouldn't even probably be there, right? I mean, it's really Call Me By Your Name, The Shape of Water, Three Billboards, and Get Out. And again, you guys picked Call Me By Your Name. I thought for sure you'd go with Get Out or Dunkirk. So this was a really pleasant surprise for me because, as you might recall from my review, I thought it was an excellent movie. Why didn't Call Me By Your Name, materialize as an Oscar frontrunner, right? I mean, it certainly has no lack of nominations, but it really isn't expected to win any of them. I think it's for 2 reasons. First off, I think that having a relationship between someone who's clearly an adult and someone who's clearly underage turned out to be more of a problem than I think was expected. And that, not only with moviegoers, but I think even the media shied away from. Oh, I guess there wasn't. The media. Gone are the days where the media will champion a film. If the articles aren't getting clicks, they're not going to write about it. So I think that's another reason that Call Me by Your Name kind of fell by the wayside. And then the other thing is that Hollywood, particularly during awards season, is all about the message du jour. And we already had Moonlight last year, so that might have undercut Call Me by Your Name as well. And so I would think that any awards hopeful film that deals with LGBT topics, for instance, one just came out of Sundance again this year with Chloe Grace Moretz. I think that it's the odds of it doing well are also diminished. So as you can see, we've got these are the way you voted for the nominees. Now, as for who you wrote in, Wonder Woman, you put in Wonder Woman. I would agree. I don't think it should have won, but I think it should have been on the board. Logan, also, you guys felt that you're going to see Logan and Wonder Woman as the focus of a lot of your write-ins. But then also Blade Runner 2049. I thought that was. I respect that a number of you enjoyed it. I wouldn't nominate it. I think, VFX, costume design, set design, etc. My biggest problem with Blade Runner 2049, let's just get it right off the bat here, is that it's not really anything new. It's a sequel. It's building on what Ridley Scott did so iconically in the space he defined all those years ago. So I don't really know how you can reward someone for just continuing that. I don't even think Villeneuve and company added to it so much, really, right? All right, it was pretty, but it was really slow. Even when I saw it the second time, I was like, I like it, but it's really slow. But then also, I was very surprised that you guys put I, Tonya in here. A number of you thought I, Tonya should have been nominated. And I think that's not only wonderful for Margot Robbie as a producer, that's the film she put together, but also as a star. I think that goes to show that she's building a fan base and that you guys are just supportive of her in general. And that's a wonderful base for an actor to move forward and to pursue other passion projects. And she's doing a lot of interesting stuff coming up. She tries to redefine herself as an actress, so she'll need your support. I wonder how long you will support her before you're like, come on, make another Harley Quinn movie already. All right, so the next up, Best Actor. As you can see, Timothée Chalamet was your pick. And I'm hearing some rumblings that maybe he also could cause an upset on Sunday. The idea being that with some new votership, maybe Gary Oldman is too old school for the new voters, particularly because no one seems to have enjoyed the movie that he's starring in. I liked it, but a lot of people did not. And, it is a little, The Crown, Downton Abbey, I think people feel we've seen it before. So Timothée Chalamet, it's close though, even with you guys. So Timothée Chalamet should take heart that he's an Oscar nominee and that a lot of people feel that he should win. That'll help him, I think, immensely going forward. I was also very surprised that Daniel Kaluuya got so many votes from you guys. He really doesn't have anything on the horizon except a supporting role in Steve McQueen's Widows with Viola Davis. So hopefully when he's on screen for most of the Oscars, I'm sure, because Get Out is a very popular movie. He's in Black Panther. I'm sure the ABC producers will be like, cut to Kaluuya. Maybe somebody watching in Hollywood will be like, you know what? We should put Daniel Kaluuya in our movie. He seems to be a thing right now. I told you, Hollywood doesn't like to take risks. They like someone else to say something's a big deal, and then they jump on. So I think, again, just like Chalamet, Kaluuya, this kind of anoints him as an actor to watch and gives him credibility. So very exciting, very nice. And also, I'm also really surprised how low your votes were for Denzel and Daniel Day-Lewis, right? I think because it's just lazy nominating, right? Those are two extremely talented actors. They've been nominated before, they've won before, and they're not doing anything particularly new in these movies that they're nominated for here. So easily, those nominations could have gone to someone else. And here were your ideas. James Franco for The Disaster Artist. I agree with you guys. I think that, it's funny. Those allegations came out. Maybe, it's short and painless. He lost the nomination here and potentially maybe even the Oscar because he was a front runner before that happened. And then he'll emerge later on, right? Or it could be Casey Affleck where the allegations only emerge when he gets any work or there's talk of him getting work. And I think to a large degree that's kept Casey Affleck from working. Casey Affleck's not even coming to the Oscars this Sunday to hand out the Best Actress Oscar, as is the norm, as is tradition. But a number of you felt that James Franco deserved the nomination. And I would agree with that, especially because there's been no investigation and we don't know if the allegations are true or not. You got to investigate allegations. We can't, innocent until proven guilty. That's the way it's supposed to work. And then also a number of you wrote down Andy Serkis to be recognized for his motion capture work, particularly in the Apes films. Remember Fox was like, oh, we're going to try and get him a special Oscar. We're really going to push for Serkis. I never really saw much of a push. And as a result, no nomination, not even a nomination, and not even a special Oscar. It's a shame. He really did great work there, groundbreaking work. But I think everyone in Hollywood secretly resents him because he's helped blockbusters get credibility with fans as real entertainment, even though we know that a lot of people in Hollywood don't agree, which is ridiculous. That's why you're not seeing those films nominated. And so maybe that's another reason that Serkis has not been able to get any recognition from his peers. So sad. Then also, I thought this was interesting. Hugh Jackman for Logan was what most of you put down, but some of you were like, or The Greatest Showman. I don't care. It was a great year for Hugh. He should be up there. And I can see that as well. I thought Logan, 17 years of work. That's a great body of work. I think that deserves some recognition. But at the same time, some of it wasn't so good. So I can see the Tinseltown being a little bit torn there. And he was very good in The Greatest Showman. But I don't know how much he pushed himself there. So I can see why he wasn't nominated, although he should feel very nice that you guys feel that he should be. And then also James McAvoy for Split. Great performance that he did there. But I think his real reward is hopefully leveling up to being an A-lister, which hasn't still happened for him yet. Maybe when Glass comes out, the sequel to Split, when he teams up finally with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, maybe that'll help him finally get there. He's been right on the edge for so long. Hugh Jackman's like, it's rough over here, let me tell you. All right, so next up, Best Actress. This was another surprise. Just like with Timothée Chalamet, you guys, and I think a lot of people in Hollywood, are eager for some new talent. So Saoirse Ronan was your pick, edging out the likely winner on Sunday, Frances McDormand. I thought that was great. Although I have to say, with this category, the female categories are often difficult to fill because there's not a lot of great work out there. Now, I think it's wonderful that this year it was hard to... it was hard in a different way, and then there were so many good choices, both for actress and supporting actress. But I think that we're still not quite there yet because people aren't that excited about too many of the nominees, right? Like there's a lot of choices, but no one's like, yeah. So I think we're like halfway there when it comes to actress. And then also Margot Robbie, again, great showing from you guys. More evidence of that support for her just as an overall talent. Fabulous. And Streep also, just like Daniel Day-Lewis and Denzel Washington, enough already. Let's nominate someone else. And in this category, you would have put Gal Gadot. Now, I want to take a moment here just to reiterate why many of us think Gal Gadot is worthy of a nomination. Because I know a lot of you like to say she's not a good actress. I think that she is a good actress. I think she was very believable as Wonder Woman. But what's very important about her work here and why she deserves just the nomination, I wouldn't say she should win, was that her portrayal, how she chose to portray the character, was very important. And I think that most actresses wouldn't have done it, wouldn't have been able to do it, and wouldn't have chosen to do it. I think that she never vogued, which, especially with her modeling background, I'm sure was a trap she had to work hard to avoid. And then also she was able to be very innocent, but without coming across as stupid. And I think that's a very fine line to walk. And I think she was someone who was very likable to both men and women. And that's also hard to do, especially when you're wearing a skirt and a tiara, right? I mean, it's tough. And so I think that a nomination would have been appropriate. Also, some of you wanted to see Jennifer Lawrence for Mother, something else I would have agreed with. I thought that even though I had major problems with that movie, I thought she was very good in it. It was actually some of the best work I've ever seen her do, and I think it underscored, as much as that movie underscored how much Darren Aronofsky hates organized religion and humanity, it also underscored just how talented Jennifer Lawrence is when she gets out of her own way. Maybe Darren Aronofsky distracted her with his shenanigans. She's like, oh boy. All right, and then also Jessica Chastain from Molly's Game. I have to say, I can see why you guys included her because, it was a signature role. The movie was all about her. It was a different type of role for a woman. I mean, I paired the two of them as a double feature for my best movies of 2017. So if Margot Robbie's going to be nominated, why not Jessica Chastain? So I understand that. And it is odd to exclude her, especially when, Meryl Streep is such a bleh nomination, right? My guess is that Styx Entertainment is the distributor there, and they just aren't very good yet. Hopefully they'll get there eventually of getting their films nominated, because Molly's Game is pretty light on nominations overall. It's certainly no I, Tonya. It really only has, I believe, a Screenplay, but that's because it's Aaron Sorkin. He just made those calls himself from his Rolodex, his list of contacts. All right, so let's move on next to supporting actor. Now, this is one of the few cases where you agreed with what the Academy is likely to hand out, and that's Sam Rockwell for 3 Billboards. I think he's got this locked down. However, speaking of, not so much new talent, but just shaking things up and who gets nominated every year, right? I think people are just, again, tired of seeing the same faces for the same type of movie. I was really happy that Woody Harrelson got so many votes from you guys. He's so good, so underappreciated also in Hollywood. Really does such great, he is a professional supporting actor. He does so much work to prop up other actors in films with just amazing acting. Really talented. So happy to see that you recognize him as well. And also that he just got the nomination. It's great for him. You had a lot of interesting write-ins on this category in particular. Armie Hammer for Call Me By Your Name. Totally agree. I think he did such a good job in the movie. He's one half of the relationship. He played, I think that Timothée Chalamet was maybe the more sympathetic character, but I think that Armie Hammer was perhaps the character putting more at risk. And I think he just did a great job. I think it's particularly impressive for Armie Hammer, who doesn't usually do work like this, whereas Timothée Chalamet is very much an artiste, right? In terms of his acting image, or image as an actor. And then also you guys put Chris Pine for Wonder Woman. I actually do agree with that. I think it never would have happened. I wouldn't push for it, but it's nice to see you guys recognize his work there. Because like Gal Gadot, it's a fine line in portraying a character in a movie like Wonder Woman that could be seen as overtly feminist. And I think that Chris Pine did a great job of being a great guy's guy and, this great romantic interest for Wonder Woman, but at the same time, not ever overshadowing her, letting her go first, but being just one step behind her. And that's also tough to do. And I think he helped bring in a lot of guys and make them feel welcome to see the movie. And, his contributions are important as well. And then also Patrick Stewart, of course, for Logan. He's the one who made me cry with his big speech to Logan in that bedroom. You know the one I'm talking about. I think that as much as I respect what Hugh Jackman did with the character and how he evolved it over the years, what Patrick Stewart brought to a comic book movie in terms of depth and emotion, that's what I thought was the most impressive about Logan. And I actually really strongly feel he should have been nominated here. Certainly over Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. Those two I think easily could have been taken out, and you guys agree with me. Now, as for Best Supporting Actress, you guys see Allison Janney here. I think everybody feels she's going to win. She's the female J.K. Simmons, as I've been saying. However, I did see some rumblings, again, that Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread could be a surprise upset, which she was my favorite thing in that movie, which I hated that movie, as you know, but I thought she did nice work. But I wouldn't derail poor Allison Janney for it. I mean, you don't recover from a snub like that. Remember Mickey Rourke? It just doesn't happen. All right, so anyway, you agree Allison Janney should win. But here, what's interesting are your write-ins. Many of you put Carrie Fisher for Star Wars. I just don't think the role was good enough in terms of, screen time. But, people have been nominated, famously for just mere minutes of screen time for the Oscars. But I also think that just the quality of the work wasn't great. And it's unfortunate that she passed away before episode 9, which we know was supposed to be her big episode, which focused on General Leia, and she never got there. It's very tragic in many ways, obviously. Then a lot of you wrote in Tiffany Haddish for Girls Trip. I think it's fair. Melissa McCarthy was nominated for Bridesmaid, so why not Tiffany Haddish for basically, well, maybe that's the argument from the Academy that it's the same role, and Tiffany Haddish just did it, but Melissa McCarthy broke new ground. But I don't know about that. Tiffany Haddish, though, she's working really hard. Hopefully she'll have another opportunity again. And she is a presenter. She announced the nominees. The Academy likes Tiffany Haddish, so I think she'll be okay maybe going forward. And then a lot of you wrote Daphne Keane for Logan. Guys, I'm glad you liked the movie so much, but I don't know if I go that far. I think she did a nice job. Unfortunately, it looks like she will not be getting an X-23 movie as a reward, especially with potential acquisition coming up from Disney or Fox. And she doesn't seem to have any other projects either, which is also unfortunate. Although, by the way, there are rumors that they're adding a character, this just occurred to me, to New Mutants, will it be X-23? They're doing reshoots and adding a whole other character to the movie. And now that I think about it, I bet that's what it is. So there's her reward. All right, and then next, Best Director. You guys also gave it to Del Toro. I thought for sure you'd give it to Nolan because he has such strong fan support. But I think everybody agrees that it's time for Del Toro to be recognized, and this is his movie. And I think that just underscores, by the way, how much Nolan doesn't understand about what makes a movie Oscar bait. It's the emotions! And unfortunately for Nolan, he's not big on emotions, so he's going to have a hard time if he wants to get that Oscar that's proving so elusive for him. Then as for write-ins, you guys I really liked your write-ins on this. Patty Jenkins for Wonder Woman. Unfortunately, I think Greta Gerwig, who was nominated, derailed her. They're like, we have our woman. And then also, I think Justice League hurt her a lot as well. I really agreed with Luca Guadagnino for Call Me By Your Name. I thought that his directing on that movie was amazing. Everything was just so well constructed, and you felt his presence in every aspect of the film. He was ingrained in it. His directing, his authorship, I guess you could say. And so I wish that he had been nominated, and I'm glad that you guys remembered him. And then again, Denis Villeneuve, you guys wrote that down. I respect it, but again, I don't think he brought anything new to Blade Runner 2049, and while he did a good job approximating what Ridley Scott invented, and that's the key word there, invented, I don't think Villeneuve should be, again, rewarded for just continuing with it. Then for Best Animated Feature, Coco. Pixar always wins, right? Pixar or Disney Animation. But I think this year Coco certainly deserves it. Now, this is interesting. Some of you wrote in, well, a lot of you actually wrote in the Lego Batman movie. And at first I thought it was like Daphne Keane, where I was like, guys, come on. The Lego Batman movie for Best Animated Feature? But then I looked it up and I reminded myself that the Lego movie also was not even nominated. And when you think of the builds that they do in these movies with the Legos, they have them come apart and you can actually see it being built on screen right before your eyes. And it looks real. It's all computer generated, but they look like actual builds. That should be recognized with a nomination, particularly if you're going to recognize The Boss Baby, which I enjoyed quite a bit. But I think that the Lego movie shows more craftsmanship. All right, then next up, Best Original Song. Very close with you guys. I'm sure this is another one that's close with the actual Academy voters. But you gave it to This Is Me. That had the edge as far as you're concerned, and I think it'll have the edge on Sunday night as well. Paul and Pasek, they are on fire, right? And they have a lot of interesting projects coming up. They did not waste any time capitalizing on the success of The Greatest Showman. However, though, I think it's interesting that, the Lopez's, who wrote the music for Frozen and, of course, did Coco, they have really not capitalized on the success of Frozen. I don't know, maybe they felt too comfortable already being a big part of Disney, but I think I would have thought we'd have seen more of them after Frozen. Although Frozen, of course, a lot of last-minute luck on that project, and maybe it was last-minute luck for the Lopez's as well. So Jennifer Lee, who's the writer, director there, I don't know if she's going to be able to do a repeat delivery either. We'll see. But then a lot of you wrote in, as far as write-ins here, Evermore from Beauty and the Beast. And I totally agree. I think a lot of people accuse Dan Stevens of using auto-tune. I don't think he did. I think he legitimately sung it. I think his voice was modified a little bit because, he's playing a beast who has a much deeper beast-like voice. But I think he really worked hard on that. I think it's a great song. And I think they did the impossible, which is they matched the quality of the original music by, of course, Alan Menken and the late Howard Ashman. So I think that should have gotten a nomination. Then Best Original Score, Dunkirk. Totally agree with you here. Definitely think that that deserves the win. As for write-ins, you put Wonder Woman and Blade Runner 2049. I don't particularly recall their scores being particularly good, but you know what I think is really interesting? I bet next year Black Panther wins this, hands down, and I feel that won't be too much of a stretch for the Academy either. Great score using a lot of traditional African instruments. So good. And then next, Best Adapted Screenplay, you put Logan. Call Me By Your Name was close after. I think that Molly's Game will likely win it, but it could be maybe Call Me By Your Name. Although I would love to see Logan take it. It's one nomination. It would be great to see a win finally for these type of movies. There have been a couple of wins in the past here and there, but Logan was, I think, a risk for comic book fair, and so this would be a nice way to reward it from an intellectual standpoint, right? As for write-ins, a lot of you put Wonder Woman. Now, I think that's actually a great write-in in this category, in particular because of Alan Heinberg's use of the Disney princess angle. That was truly inspired. I think it really helped save that movie, and I don't think it gets enough credit, so I would have liked to have seen Alan be able to walk up and get an Oscar, or at least, be on screen when they announce his nomination. And also, I thought that they not only thought of looping in World War I, but they did it in a convincing and respectful manner, which is also tough to do. So I think and also I thought that the way they showed Wonder Woman's worldview coming into perspective by not only her experiences, but by what Steve Trevor said to her in their discussions and her discussions with his fellow mercenaries, I thought that was also very, very well done. And then finally, best original screenplay. Now, you guys gave this to Get Out, which I think will win. I think it's going to win this category. But this is where, again, I thought your write-ins were very good. Some of you put I, Tonya, and I think that's great. That was a very complicated screenplay. They had an interesting story structure, the way they put it together. The only reason I probably wouldn't nominate that, though, is because it's just so factually incorrect. They just made up so much stuff. So I have a problem with that. But then a number of you wrote Coco, and I 110% agree on this. I think Coco should not only have been nominated, but I have to say, because I didn't like the third act on Get Out, I think it deserves to win. And that would be nice to see animated movies being recognized outside of their category. It's almost like they contain them, right? They were like, oh, okay, this is animation, don't come over here. I mean, occasionally we'll see one jump into the main Best Picture competition, but never really anywhere else, right? And that's a shame. I think Coco deserves it. I watched it again when it came out on iTunes. So well done. A great twist that I did not see coming. I'm pretty good at spotting twists. I thought it was incredibly meaningful, emotional. I think they dealt with a difficult holiday, particularly for Western audiences, and made it very accessible. I think, as you can see from the reaction from the Mexican box office, that they did an entire culture credit and proud. And I think that deserves to win. So those are your choices, and those not only who you would vote for of who was nominated, but your write-ins. I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below now that you can see the results. And of course, again, join me on Sunday as I live tweet the Oscars, which I believe start 8 Eastern Standard Time, and they again, of course, air on ABC. All right, thanks for watching, and you can check out some more videos right now.